The wealthy man had spent years imagining this moment. He had waited for so long to meet his granddaughter, the child he had never really known but had hoped would one day be a part of his life. In his mind, he pictured her walking into the grand house, dressed elegantly, her posture perfect, every gesture refined as if she had been raised in a world of comfort and privilege. He thought about the life she would lead, surrounded by wealth, and how she would inherit everything he had built with his hands. The thought of finally meeting her filled him with excitement and anticipation, but there was also a small, hidden worry. What if she was not what he expected? What if the years apart had changed her too much? He had grown used to imagining her face, though he had never seen it. He pictured her as bright, confident, and elegant. Someone who could easily step into the world of business meetings, charity events, and social gatherings that he had always been a part of. He thought of how proud he would feel, introducing her to friends, colleagues, and distant relatives. Every detail of her life, he imagined, had prepared her for this moment. And he could not wait to see how she carried herself. The truth was he had been patient. He had waited through many years, hoping that life had treated her well. Despite being wealthy, he knew that money could not always shield someone from difficulties. But he liked to believe that she had been raised with love and care. He had invested time in researching and trying to find her. Hiring private investigators, going through old records, and reaching out to distant relatives. Each small clue led him closer to her, and finally, the day had come when he could meet her in person. He prepared meticulously for this meeting. His home was polished, every corner sparkling. The finest clothes were pressed and laid out, his hair groomed perfectly. He wanted to look his best, to make a good impression on someone he had imagined for so long. He thought about the words he would say, the stories he would tell, and the way he would welcome her into his world. This was more than just a meeting. It was a chance to build a connection that he had missed for years. It was the beginning of something he had always dreamed about. Meanwhile, far away from the polished halls of his home, the young woman lived a life that could not have been more different. She had grown up without the comforts he imagined. Life had not been kind to her, and she had learned to be independent far too early. Losing her parents had been the hardest thing she had ever faced, leaving her with a sense of emptiness that she carried quietly. The people around her, though sometimes well-meaning, could not fill the void left by her family. She had moved from one home to another, sometimes safe, sometimes not, learning to adapt and survive in a world that seemed indifferent to her struggles. Every day was a challenge. She worked small jobs just to make ends meet, often feeling exhausted and worn out. She knew what it meant to struggle, to face uncertainty, and to rely only on herself. Yet, despite all the hardships, she had a strength that she did not fully recognize. She had learned to smile, even when the world seemed heavy. To keep going, even when it felt impossible, and to hope, even if only in small ways. That hope, fragile as it was, had kept her alive. She did not know that someone, far away, was thinking about her, imagining her life in ways that could not have been further from the truth. She had no idea that her grandfather, a man she had never met, was anticipating her arrival with excitement, planning how he would welcome her into his world of comfort. The contrast between their lives could not have been starker. He lived in a world where problems could be solved with money, where comfort was a given, and where opportunities were endless. She lived in a world where every day was a test of endurance, where resources were scarce, and where safety was never guaranteed as the day of their meeting approached. He felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He had built up an image of her in his mind, and now he would finally see if reality matched his expectations. Would she be confident, poised, and graceful as he had imagined? Would she share his love for the finer things? Or would she have developed her own ways of seeing the world? The questions swirled in his mind. But one thing was certain. He wanted to meet her and make her feel welcome. On the other side, she was preparing for her day, like any other. She did not know that her life was about to change, that the world she had known was about to intersect with a life of unimaginable comfort and security. She was unaware of the plans being made for her, the anticipation that had been building for years, and the emotions that would flood her when she finally met the man who had been waiting to welcome her into his life. The city was buzzing with activity. people moving in every direction, each absorbed in their own lives. Yet, amidst all this, a story was about to unfold that would bridge two very different worlds. One person imagined her life in lavish detail, while the other lived each moment with quiet determination, unaware of what awaited. The distance between them was not just physical, but also emotional and experiential. A gap that years of hardship and separation had created. As he left his home and traveled towards the meeting place, he reflected on the importance of family. He thought about the choices he had made in life, the mistakes and regrets, and how this moment could offer a chance to heal old wounds. He wanted to provide not just material wealth, but love, guidance, and connection. He imagined holding her hand, listening to her stories, and seeing her grow into the person she was meant to be. The thought of finally connecting with her brought tears to his eyes, a mix of joy and longing. In the shelter where she stayed, she moved through her day with routine and efficiency. She knew the people around her, the schedules, the rules, and the expectations. Life was structured by necessity, not choice, and she had adapted to this world with quiet resilience. She interacted with the staff and other residents politely, but kept her guard up, not fully trusting anyone. Her experiences had taught her to be careful, to protect herself emotionally, and to rely on her own strength. She had dreams, of course, small dreams that she kept to herself. Dreams of safety, stability, and maybe one day a sense of belonging. But these dreams were often tempered by reality. She knew that life was unpredictable, that opportunities could be scarce, and that hope could be fragile. Yet she held on to these dreams, however quietly, because they were all she had to keep her going. The day drew closer, and the paths of the grandfather and granddaughter were about to cross. The excitement he felt was tempered by nervousness. While her life continued with quiet uncertainty, unaware that the world she was about to enter was very different from the one she had known, the contrast between expectation and reality, between wealth and hardship, between imagination and truth, was about to be revealed. The journey to the meeting place was filled with anticipation. Every moment, every turn, brought him closer to the person he had dreamed of meeting. He thought about the stories he would share, the questions he would ask, and the way he would try to connect. He wanted to understand her, to know her, and to build a relationship that had been missing for so long. The thought of finally seeing her face, hearing her voice, and sharing a moment of genuine connection filled him with a mixture of hope and anxiety. In the shelter, she went about her tasks with quiet focus, unaware of the life-changing encounter that awaited her. She had learned to navigate the world on her own, to face challenges without complaint, and to find small moments of joy amidst difficulties. Yet, she could not have imagined that her life was about to intersect with someone who had thought about her every day, who had hoped and waited for this very moment. The intersection of these two lives, so different yet connected by blood, was about to unfold in ways that neither of them could fully anticipate as the time for their meeting approached. The grandfather's mind raced with possibilities. He thought about the bond they could form, the lessons he could share, and the love he could give. He imagined her reaction, her expression, and the moment when recognition would finally dawn. The thought of building a bridge between their worlds, of bringing her into a life of safety, comfort, and family, filled him with determination. The granddaughter, meanwhile, remained unaware, moving through her day with a practiced rhythm. She had no idea that the world she had known was about to expand in ways she had never imagined. She could not see the path ahead, the sudden shift from struggle to security, from uncertainty to stability. All she knew was the life she had lived, the challenges she had faced, and the resilience she had developed along the way. And so, the stage was set. Two lives shaped by vastly different experiences were on the verge of meeting. One had been built on wealth, expectation, and longing. The other on hardship, survival, and quiet strength. The moment that would bring them together was near, and the story of connection, discovery, and family was about to begin. The anticipation, the curiosity, and the emotions of this meeting promised to change both of their lives forever, in ways neither could yet imagine. life had never been easy for the young woman. Every day was a series of challenges, and she had grown used to facing them on her own. The shelter where she stayed was crowded and noisy, filled with people who had their own struggles and worries. The staff tried their best, but resources were limited, and there was only so much help they could offer. She had learned to navigate this environment carefully, keeping to herself, observing the people around her, and finding ways to make life a little more bearable. She had learned to be independent not because she wanted to, but because she had to. She had learned to be strong even when it felt like the world had nothing to offer her. Her mornings began early. She would wake up before the rest of the shelter stirred, quietly making her bed, washing her face, and preparing herself for the day. She had a routine that gave her a sense of control in a life that often felt unpredictable. After breakfast, she would take on the small jobs she could find: cleaning, organizing, helping staff with errands, anything that allowed her to earn a little money. Each task was done with care, not for praise, but because she knew that every small effort mattered. She had learned that survival required discipline, patience, and the ability to adapt quickly. Even though she had grown strong and resilient, she could not ignore the feelings of loneliness and loss that had followed her for years. She remembered the faces of her parents, the warmth of their hugs, the sound of their voices, and the comfort of knowing she was loved. Those memories were bittersweet. They brought both comfort and pain. She often found herself thinking about what her life might have been if they were still alive. She wondered if she would have been raised in a home filled with love and safety. She would have had the chance to pursue her dreams without the constant burden of survival. But life had taken a different path. She had no choice but to keep moving forward. Despite the hardships, she had learned to find small moments of joy. A sunny day, a kind word from a stranger, or a quiet evening with a good book became treasures in her life. She had discovered the strength of her own spirit, the ability to endure, and the resilience that allowed her to keep going even when everything seemed difficult. She had also learned to trust cautiously. There were people who offered help with genuine kindness, and others who could not be trusted. She had learned to read the world carefully, to protect herself, and to rely on her own instincts. Her social circle was limited. The friends she made were usually fellow residents of the shelter or colleagues from her small jobs. She valued these relationships, but she also knew that they were fragile, just like everything else in her life. She had learned to appreciate people while also understanding that nothing in her life could be taken for granted. She had learned to be grateful for small acts of kindness, for moments of connection, for the support of those who cared about her well-being. Education had been a struggle for her. She had attended schools when she could, but frequent moves and changes in guardianship had made consistent learning difficult. She had a thirst for knowledge, a curiosity about the world, and a desire to learn. But circumstances often prevented her from pursuing these interests fully. She read whenever she could, borrowed books, and listened carefully to stories told by others. Learning became a way to escape, a way to imagine possibilities beyond her current reality, and a way to hope for a better future. Despite the hardships, she had a kind heart. She helped others whenever she could, shared her limited resources with those in need, and offered comfort to people who were struggling. She had learned that even small acts of kindness could make a big difference in someone's life. Her experiences had taught her empathy and compassion. She understood suffering, and she knew how it felt to be overlooked, misunderstood, or ignored. These lessons shaped her character and made her quietly strong. Even though few people around her realized it, she often thought about her family, wondering if she would ever find them again. She did not know that her grandfather, who had lived a life of wealth and privilege, had been searching for her for years. She had no idea that someone out there was thinking of her, waiting to connect with her, and preparing to welcome her into a life of comfort and love. The thought of family was both a comfort and a source of longing, a reminder of what she had lost and what she still hoped to find. The shelter could be harsh at times. There were arguments, misunderstandings, and moments of fear. But there were also moments of community, laughter, and shared support. She learned to navigate this world with patience and grace. She observed people carefully, understanding their moods, their habits, and their intentions. She learned to stay out of trouble, to keep herself safe, and to focus on what she could control. The shelter was a microcosm of the world outside, with its own rules, challenges, and opportunities for growth. She had dreams, though she rarely spoke of them. She dreamed of stability, of a home she could call her own, of opportunities to learn and grow, and of a life where she could feel safe and loved. These dreams were private, cherished, and protected. They were her way of holding on to hope, of imagining a future that seemed just out of reach. Even in the darkest moments, these dreams gave her strength, motivation, and a reason to keep going. Every evening, she would return to her small corner of the shelter, quiet and reflective. She would think about the day, the people she had interacted with, and the small victories she had achieved. She would plan for the next day, considering how to make it better, safer, and more productive. Sleep was often light, interrupted by the noises of the shelter or by lingering worries about the future. Yet she faced each day with determination, resilience, and the quiet hope that things could improve. Her life had been shaped by hardship, but it had also shaped her character. She was resilient, empathetic, and resourceful. She had learned to find beauty in small things, to appreciate moments of kindness, to hold on to hope, even when circumstances seemed bleak. Her experiences had taught her the value of hard work, perseverance, and courage. She understood the fragility of life, the importance of compassion, the power of hope. She did not know that her grandfather's journey to find her was already underway. He was making his way through the city, guided by clues and records that had finally led him to her. He imagined her life, believing she had been raised with comfort, elegance, and care. He could not yet see the reality of her struggles, the strength she had developed, or the resilience that defined her character. The contrast between expectation and reality was about to become clear, but neither of them could predict the emotions, revelations, and bonds that would emerge from their meeting. The world outside the shelter continued to move at its usual pace. People went about their lives unaware of the story unfolding just blocks away. Yet for her, each moment carried weight. Every small task, every interaction, every decision had consequences. She had learned to be vigilant, patient, and thoughtful. Life had taught her lessons that could not be learned in comfort or wealth. Lessons about survival, empathy, and perseverance. She had moments of doubt, questioning whether she would ever find stability, family, or happiness. But these doubts were balanced by moments of hope, however fleeting. She believed deep down that life could change, that circumstances could improve, and that someone out there cared. She did not know the depth of the connection that awaited her, the love that had been waiting for years, or the life that could begin anew. Yet these possibilities existed, quietly waiting for the moment when their paths would finally cross. Her mornings, afternoons, and evenings followed a rhythm shaped by necessity. She learned to find comfort in routine, to cherish small moments, and to approach life with quiet determination. Each day was a test of resilience, patience, and adaptability. She had learned that strength was not always loud or visible, but often quiet, steady, and enduring. She carried herself with dignity even in the most difficult circumstances, and had earned the respect of those around her. Even if they did not fully understand her story as the days passed, the young woman continued to live her life, unaware of the approaching meeting that would change everything. She remained focused on survival, growth, and maintaining her sense of self amidst challenges. Her heart carried a mixture of longing and hope, sadness and resilience, reflecting a life shaped by both hardship and strength. She did not know that the moment she had dreamed of in small, private ways was near, and that the man who had waited for her, who had longed to connect, was drawing closer. The intersection of their lives, so different yet bound by family, was about to unfold in a way that neither of them could have imagined. The story of connection, discovery, and family continued, ready to move toward a new chapter filled with hope, understanding, the possibility of belonging. The day had finally arrived. He stepped out of his car, adjusting his coat and taking a deep breath. Every step he took toward the shelter felt heavier, as if the anticipation weighed on his shoulders. He had pictured this moment countless times in his mind, imagining the elegance, poise, and grace of the granddaughter he had longed to meet. Now, reality was waiting for him, and he was filled with a mix of excitement and anxiety. What if she was not what he expected? What if she had changed in ways he could not imagine? The questions swirled in his mind, but he pushed them aside, determined to meet her with an open heart. Inside the shelter, she moved through her routine as usual. The day had begun like any other, but something in the air felt different, though she could not quite put her finger on it. She was busy helping with chores, speaking kindly to other residents, and keeping her head down as she went about her tasks. She had learned to keep a low profile, to stay focused, and to move through life without drawing too much attention to herself. It was a way of staying safe, of protecting her heart, and of making sure that nothing in her life went wrong. The staff at the shelter had received a visitor, a man who had come to inquire about a young woman. They guided him carefully through the narrow hallways, past rooms filled with the sounds of daily life, till they reached a common area where she was quietly folding laundry. He paused for a moment, studying the room, taking in the surroundings, and trying to prepare himself for what he was about to see. His mind raced, imagining the moment when recognition would strike, when he would finally know for certain that she was indeed his granddaughter. When their eyes met for the first time, the world seemed to pause. He saw a young woman standing there, her posture reserved, but her eyes curious. She looked at him with a mixture of surprise, confusion, and caution. He had expected elegance and refinement, but here was someone who had faced hardship, someone whose strength and resilience were written on her face. He felt a pang of guilt for imagining her life so differently, but also a surge of love and recognition that could not be denied. In that moment, the years apart fell away, and he saw her not just as the granddaughter he had imagined, but as the young woman she had become. She took a step back, unsure of what to make of this stranger who claimed to know her. His presence was unexpected, and she felt a mixture of fear and curiosity. She had learned to protect herself, to question motives, and to be cautious in a world that had not always been kind. Yet there was something in his eyes, a warmth and sincerity that she could not ignore. Something about him felt familiar, though she could not place it. She remained guarded, but her curiosity was piqued. She wanted to understand who he was and why he had come. He spoke gently, his voice calm and inviting. He introduced himself, explaining that he was looking for her, that he was her grandfather, and that he had longed to meet her. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning and emotion. She listened carefully, her mind racing to process what he was saying. The idea that someone, a family member she had never met, had been searching for her all these years was overwhelming. She had never imagined such a moment, and yet here it was unfolding before her eyes. The conversation began tentatively. He asked questions about her life, her experiences, and her dreams. She answered cautiously, unsure how much to reveal, but gradually she found herself opening up. She spoke of her childhood, the loss of her parents, the challenges she had faced, and the resilience she had developed. He listened attentively, nodding, asking gentle questions, and offering words of understanding. He did not judge her for the hardships she had endured. Instead, he recognized her strength and courage. He was struck by her resilience, her ability to navigate a difficult world with grace and determination. He realized that the elegance he had imagined was not the elegance of wealth or privilege, but the elegance of character, the quiet dignity that comes from surviving and thriving despite adversity. She had become a remarkable young woman, shaped not by comfort but by strength, courage, and perseverance. He felt pride and admiration mixed with a deep sense of responsibility and love. She, in turn, began to see him in a new light. His words, his demeanor, and the care in his eyes conveyed a sincerity that she could not ignore. She realized that he truly cared, that his search had been driven by love and longing, and that he wanted to be a part of her life. The fear and caution that had always been a part of her began to soften, replaced by a tentative hope. Perhaps, she thought, family could mean more than what she had experienced so far. Perhaps there was a place for her in this man's life, a place where she could feel safe and valued. They spent hours talking, sharing stories, and exploring memories. He told her about the family she had lost, about the love and hope that had carried him through the years, and about the dreams he had for their relationship. She shared her experiences, her challenges, and the lessons she had learned along the way. The conversation was honest, raw, and deeply human. It was a meeting not just of family, but of hearts, bridging the gap of years and circumstances as the day went on. He offered to take her on a small tour, showing her parts of the city she had never seen, places that were safe, beautiful, and full of opportunity. She hesitated at first, unsure if she was ready for such a change, but eventually she agreed. The journey was slow and tentative, each step a mix of excitement and apprehension. She noticed the care he took in explaining things, the patience in his manner, and the warmth in his presence. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen, valued, and cared for in a way that transcended words. They stopped for a quiet moment in a park. Sitting on a bench as the sun began to set, the golden light bathed them both in warmth, and for a brief time, the world outside seemed to fade away. He spoke of dreams, of possibilities, and of the life he hoped to share with her. She listened, her heart filled with a mixture of awe, hope, and cautious optimism. She realized that life could be different, that love and support could exist beyond the walls of the shelter, and that she could belong somewhere. The conversation turned to practical matters. He asked about her needs, her hopes for the future, and the ways he could help without taking away her independence. She was cautious, but she appreciated his respect for her autonomy. She wanted support, but she also wanted to maintain her sense of self, her dignity, and her resilience. He understood this instinctively, offering guidance and assistance while honoring her strength and independence. This balance of care and respect laid the foundation for a bond that was both nurturing and empowering. As the evening approached, they returned to the shelter. He introduced her to a few trusted staff members, explaining that he wanted to ensure her well-being and safety. She observed the interactions carefully, noting the respect and professionalism of those around her. She was still cautious, but she felt a growing sense of trust. The day had been filled with surprises, emotions, and revelations. But it had also been filled with moments of connection and understanding. She began to believe that perhaps this man, her grandfather, could truly be a part of her life. Throughout the day, he marveled at her resilience and character. He realized that the young woman he had imagined in his mind was not the same as the one he now met. She had faced struggles he could never have imagined, yet she had emerged with strength, dignity, and compassion. He felt a deep sense of admiration, pride, and love. This was not the life he had imagined for her, but it was the life she had lived, and he respected her for it. The contrast between expectation and reality was stark, yet it brought them closer, deepening the bond that had begun to form. They spent the night at the shelter, sharing stories and reflecting on the day. She spoke of moments of hardship, of lessons learned, and of the resilience that had carried her through life. He listened, offering words of understanding, encouragement, and love. The evening was filled with quiet moments of connection, laughter, and shared reflection. It was a meeting not just of family but of hearts, a moment that would forever change their lives as they prepared to part ways for the night. He assured her that this was only the beginning. He wanted to be a part of her life, to offer support, guidance, and love, but also to respect her independence and choices. She felt a sense of relief, hope, and cautious optimism. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a future where she was truly seen, valued, and loved. The day had been filled with surprises, emotions, and revelations. They had navigated the complexities of reunion, the challenges of trust, and the beauty of connection. The young woman had faced a lifetime of hardship, yet she had emerged resilient, compassionate, and strong. He had longed for this moment for years, imagining a granddaughter who might be very different, yet he had found someone even more remarkable than he could have dreamed. The meeting was a turning point, a moment of discovery, understanding, and love that would shape the chapters to come. As night fell and they settled into quiet reflection, both of them understood that life had changed. The encounter had bridged years of separation, hardship, and misunderstanding. It had opened the door to a new chapter, filled with possibilities, hope, and the chance to build a relationship that honored both past struggles and future potential. The young woman had found a connection she had longed for, and he had found a granddaughter he could cherish and support. Together, they began a journey of trust, understanding, and family that would continue to unfold, filled with hope, resilience, and the promise of belonging. After the first meeting, the days that followed were filled with cautious exploration and discovery. He wanted to understand her world, her experiences, and the strength that had carried her through years of hardship. Every conversation revealed more about her resilience, her courage, and the quiet dignity that had been shaped by life's challenges. She spoke of her childhood memories, the moments of loss, and the small victories that had kept her moving forward. He listened intently, feeling a mixture of sadness, admiration, and deep love. The stories she shared were sometimes painful, sometimes heartwarming, but always real. Reflecting the life she had lived and the person she had become, they spent long hours together, walking through the city, visiting familiar places, and discovering new ones. He showed her parks, libraries, and cafes, places she had never imagined she would enter. Each moment was filled with learning, understanding, and connection. She noticed his patience, the gentle way he guided her, and the respect he showed for her feelings. She realized that he genuinely cared, not just about her well-being, but also about her independence and choices. This balance of care and respect was something she had rarely experienced, and it slowly began to build trust between them. He wanted to make amends for the years lost, but he also understood that he could not erase the hardships she had endured. He approached their relationship with humility, offering support without taking over her life. He asked questions, listened carefully, and encouraged her to express herself freely. She found comfort in this approach, feeling seen and understood for the first time in a long while. She began to open up more, sharing her thoughts, dreams, and fears. The bond between them grew stronger, built on mutual respect, empathy, and the recognition of each other's experiences. There were moments of laughter, too. They shared stories from their respective lives, discovering the humor in small situations and finding joy in each other's company. These moments lightened the weight of the past, offering glimpses of a future where happiness was possible. She began to feel a sense of belonging, a feeling she had longed for but had rarely experienced. The idea that she could have a place in his life, a connection based on love and understanding, slowly became real. She felt hope stirring within her, a quiet but persistent belief that life could be different. He introduced her to aspects of his life gradually, knowing that overwhelming her could create discomfort. He spoke about his work, his travels, and his experiences, but he never imposed them on her. Instead, he encouraged curiosity and exploration, allowing her to see the world through his eyes while still honoring her perspective. She appreciated this approach, recognizing that he valued her thoughts, opinions, and autonomy. She began to imagine possibilities she had never considered, opportunities for growth, education, and personal development. For the first time, the idea of a future filled with choice and possibility felt attainable as they spent time together. He also encouraged her to reflect on her past experiences. He asked about the lessons she had learned, the strengths she had developed, and the ways she had overcome adversity. These conversations were not easy. They required vulnerability, honesty, and courage. Yet they were essential in building a foundation of trust and understanding. She realized that her past, though difficult, had shaped her into a resilient, compassionate, and resourceful individual. He acknowledged her achievements, not in terms of wealth or status, but in terms of character, courage, and perseverance. One afternoon, they visited a quiet garden, where sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating patterns of light and shadow. They sat together, sharing memories, dreams, and reflections. He spoke about his hopes for their future, not in terms of material wealth, but in terms of connection, love, and shared experiences. She listened, feeling a mix of awe, hope, and cautious optimism. She realized that family could be more than a word. It could be a source of support, understanding, and belonging. She began to envision a life where she was truly valued, loved, and accepted. The process of reconnection was gradual. He respected her boundaries, understanding that trust could not be forced. She appreciated his patience, the way he allowed her to set the pace, and the consistent care he showed. Each day they grew closer, learning from each other, sharing experiences, and building a bond that transcended years of separation. The young woman began to feel a sense of security she had never known, a realization that someone cared deeply about her well-being and wanted to be a part of her life. He also wanted to ensure that her immediate needs were met. He arranged for better living conditions, access to education, and resources that could help her pursue her dreams. Yet he was careful not to make her feel indebted or controlled. He emphasized that these were opportunities, not obligations, and that her choices and independence were paramount. She felt a sense of relief, realizing that help did not have to come with strings attached. She could accept support without compromising her autonomy or dignity. Throughout this period, they shared quiet moments of reflection. They discussed values, dreams, and life lessons. He offered guidance without judgment, encouragement without pressure, and love without conditions. She began to trust him more, seeing that his intentions were genuine, his care unwavering, and his respect for her independence sincere. This trust became the foundation of their relationship, a bond built on understanding, empathy, and mutual respect. They also explored creative outlets together. He encouraged her to write, draw, or engage in activities that allowed her to express herself. She discovered that her voice mattered, that her experiences and perspectives were valuable, and that she could contribute meaningfully to the world around her. These activities became a source of joy, self-expression, and personal growth. He celebrated her achievements not in terms of recognition from others, but in terms of personal fulfillment and development. The young woman also began to reflect on her past, the new perspective. She saw that her hardships had shaped her strengths, her resilience, and her compassion. She understood that the challenges she had faced were part of her journey, contributing to the person she had become. He reinforced this understanding, acknowledging her experiences, validating her feelings, and celebrating her character. This mutual recognition of strength and resilience deepened their bond, creating a connection that was both emotional and transformative. They spent time discussing practical matters as well. He wanted to ensure she had the resources, knowledge, and support to make informed decisions about her future. They talked about education, career opportunities, and personal goals. She felt empowered by these discussions, realizing that she could shape her own path while receiving guidance and support from someone who truly cared. This sense of empowerment was new to her, a feeling she had longed for but had rarely experienced as the days passed. The young woman began to feel a sense of belonging she had never known. She realized that family was not just about shared history, but about support, understanding, and love. She saw that she could be herself, be valued for who she was, find a place in a world that had often felt harsh and unforgiving. The sense of hope that had been fragile began to grow stronger, supported by consistent care, patience, and genuine connection. He in turn marveled at her character. He recognized the elegance he had imagined, not in terms of wealth or appearance, but in terms of resilience, compassion, and inner strength. He felt gratitude for the opportunity to be part of her life, to witness her growth, and to support her journey. The bond they were forming was profound, built on shared experiences, mutual respect, and the recognition of each other's humanity. Together, they navigated the complexities of reconnection, building a foundation of trust, understanding, and love. The young woman began to see possibilities for her future, opportunities for growth, and the potential for a life filled with support and belonging. He continued to provide guidance, care, and encouragement, ensuring that she felt empowered, valued, and loved. Their relationship became a source of strength, hope, and transformation, bridging years of separation and hardship. The process was not without challenges. There were moments of doubt, hesitation, and emotional vulnerability. Yet each challenge was met with patience, understanding, and communication. They learned to navigate their emotions, to respect boundaries, and to build trust gradually. The young woman began to feel secure, knowing that she was not alone, and that someone cared deeply about her well-being and growth. He, in turn, felt fulfillment, witnessing the strength, resilience, and character of his granddaughter. Through shared experiences, honest conversations, and consistent support, they created a bond that was authentic, meaningful, and transformative. The young woman began to embrace the possibilities of her future, feeling empowered, hopeful, and valued. He found joy in being part of her life, offering guidance, support, and love. Together, they embarked on a journey of healing, growth, and connection, discovering the true meaning of family, trust, and resilience. Each day brought new opportunities, deeper understanding, and the promise of a future filled with hope, belonging, and love. As time went on, their bond grew stronger, built on trust, understanding, and shared experiences. Each day brought new opportunities to connect, to laugh, and to learn from each other. The young woman began to feel a sense of stability she had never known, a feeling of safety and belonging that slowly replaced the uncertainty of her past. She began to see the possibilities of a future where she could grow, learn, and thrive. The years of hardship had shaped her into a strong and resilient person, but now, with her grandfather's support, she could explore life in a way she had never imagined. He continued to offer guidance, care, and encouragement, always mindful of her independence. He wanted her to feel empowered, to make choices that reflected her true self, and to pursue the life she dreamed of. He arranged opportunities for education, personal development, and creative expression, ensuring she had the resources to succeed while respecting her autonomy. She began to embrace these opportunities, discovering talents and passions she had not fully explored before. Every step forward was a small victory, testament to her resilience and the care she received. Their days were filled with both ordinary moments and extraordinary experiences. They walked through the city together, exploring new neighborhoods, visiting museums, and enjoying quiet cafes. They spent evenings talking, sharing stories, and reflecting on life. He listened with patience and understanding as she recounted her experiences, acknowledging her struggles and celebrating her achievements. She found comfort in his presence, a steady source of support and guidance that allowed her to open her heart and envision a brighter future. The young woman also began to reconnect with her own sense of self. She explored her interests, pursued hobbies, and developed new skills. She wrote stories, painted, and engaged in activities that allowed her to express herself creatively. Her grandfather encouraged these endeavors, celebrating her efforts and offering gentle guidance without imposing expectations. She discovered that her voice mattered, that her experiences were valuable, and that she could contribute meaningfully to the world around her. This sense of empowerment was transformative, giving her confidence and hope for the future. He, in turn, found joy and fulfillment in being part of her life. He marveled at her resilience, compassion, and strength. He realized that the granddaughter he had imagined in his mind was not the same as the one he had found, but she was even more remarkable than he could have hoped for. Her experiences had shaped her character, giving her a depth of understanding, empathy, and courage that could not be learned through comfort or privilege. He felt pride, love, and gratitude for the opportunity to be part of her journey. They also addressed practical matters, ensuring she had access to stable living arrangements, healthcare, and education. He provided support while emphasizing her independence, teaching her to make decisions, manage resources, and navigate the world with confidence. She embraced this guidance, appreciating the balance between support and autonomy. She realized that she could rely on him without losing herself, a lesson that had taken years to learn and one that transformed her sense of self-worth. Over time, the young woman began to trust fully, allowing herself to be vulnerable and open with her grandfather. She shared her dreams, fears, and aspirations, knowing that he would listen without judgment. He offered encouragement, reassurance, and perspective, helping her navigate challenges and make informed choices. Their relationship became a partnership of care and respect, grounded in love, understanding, and mutual appreciation. She began to see the possibilities of a life filled with connection, hope, and belonging. He introduced her to extended family members and friends gradually, ensuring she felt comfortable and supported. She learned to navigate these new relationships with confidence, guided by his encouragement and understanding. Each interaction was a learning experience, building her social skills, confidence, and sense of belonging. She began to see that family could be a source of support, love, and shared joy, not just a distant or abstract concept. This realization was both comforting and empowering, opening doors to relationships she had previously thought unattainable. They shared moments of quiet reflection, sitting together in parks, by rivers, or in cozy rooms filled with sunlight. These moments allowed them to process their emotions, share experiences, and deepen their bond. He often spoke about life lessons, values, and the importance of integrity, empathy, and resilience. She listened, absorbing the wisdom while also contributing her own insights and perspectives. Their conversations were rich, meaningful, and transformative, fostering growth and understanding in both of them. As months passed, the young woman began to flourish in ways she had never imagined. She pursued education, explored her interests, and built a sense of identity rooted in confidence, strength, and hope. She discovered talents, formed meaningful connections, and embraced the opportunities that had once seemed out of reach. Her grandfather supported her journey every step of the way, providing guidance, encouragement, and unconditional love. Together, they navigated challenges, celebrated successes, and created a life filled with connection and purpose. They also reflected on the past. Acknowledging the hardships and losses that had shaped her life, she realized that her struggles had given her a unique perspective, resilience, and strength that would serve her well in the future. He expressed admiration for her perseverance and courage, validating her experiences and reinforcing her sense of self-worth. These reflections were healing, allowing both of them to process the past while focusing on the possibilities of the future. They learned that family could heal wounds, provide support, and offer a foundation for growth and belonging. Through shared experiences, mutual respect, and consistent support, they built a relationship that was authentic, meaningful, and transformative. She began to embrace the life she had once only imagined, finding joy, purpose, and hope in each day. He discovered the fulfillment that comes from being present, supportive, and loving in a way that honors another person's strength and autonomy. Their bond became a source of strength, inspiration, and connection, demonstrating the power of family resilience. In love, they also began to explore ways to give back, helping others who faced similar challenges. They volunteered together, supported local initiatives, and shared their story to inspire hope and resilience in others. These experiences reinforced their connection, provided a sense of purpose, and allowed them to contribute positively to the community. She realized that her experiences, though difficult, could serve as a source of strength and inspiration for others. Her grandfather supported these efforts, celebrating her contributions and helping her navigate challenges with care and encouragement. The young woman's confidence and independence continued to grow. She learned to make decisions, navigate new environments, and build relationships rooted in trust and respect. Her grandfather remained a steady presence, offering guidance, encouragement, and love without imposing control. She discovered that she could rely on him while maintaining her autonomy, a balance that strengthened their relationship and her sense of self. Each day brought new opportunities for growth, learning, and connection, reinforcing the values of resilience, compassion, and hope. Together, they built a life that honored both past experiences and future possibilities. They celebrated milestones, shared quiet moments of reflection, and embraced the journey of growth and transformation. The young woman discovered the power of hope, the importance of family, and the value of resilience. Her grandfather witnessed her transformation, feeling pride, love, and fulfillment in being part of her life. Their relationship became a testament to the strength of human connection, the healing power of love, and the potential for growth and transformation. even after years of hardship. As the years went by, they continued to support each other, navigate challenges, and celebrate successes. The young woman embraced her future with confidence, hope, and a sense of purpose. She pursued her dreams, built meaningful relationships, and discovered the joy of belonging and being valued. Her grandfather remained a guiding presence, offering wisdom, encouragement, and unconditional love. Together, they created a life filled with connection, resilience, and the enduring power of family. Through this journey, both discovered that true wealth is not measured by material possessions, but by love, connection, and the ability to support and empower others. The young woman's life had been transformed, not just by resources, but by the care, understanding, and guidance of someone who truly valued her. Her grandfather learned that family is not about expectation, but about recognizing, honoring, and nurturing the strength and potential in those we love. Their story became one of hope, resilience, and the transformative power of love and family, showing that even after years of hardship, a new beginning is always possible.